Hey guys, it's James. We're going to talk about how to underwrite your next deal. So the 4 steps I take when underwriting my next investment purchase is 1, asset overview. What is the actual building? What's the maximal potential in the location overview? 2, the comparable analysis. How do we come up with the potential value of that asset and what we're going to sell it for? 3, the rehab analysis. What do we need to put into the property? How much that's going to cost and what's that going to do to our profit? 4, the financial performance of the asset. What's it going to cost for us to purchase it, what we need to put into it, what we're going to sell to, and does it actually make money after all of those costs? So step 1, asset and location overview. Identifying what the property is to maximize the potential of it. So I just got a deal from a wholesaler, and you guys, what wholesalers are, they're guys out there finding new deals. It's very important to go network those guys. They'll bring in all sorts of deals. Chances are you're probably going to say no to 90% of them, but it's a good way to get additional deal flow in. So we just got this email from a wholesaler. Typically, they're very generic in nature. You're going to have to do your own homework. That's why analysis is so important. So I just got an email. It says we have an owner-occupied property in Kirkland, Washington, which is a great suburb right out of Bellevue. It's got a lot of upside, a lot of future path of progress in there. And he gives me very limited information. It's a 1982 built house, 3 bedrooms, 2.75 baths, and a 2-car garage. He does have some photos that we're gonna look at in a second. And then he says the price is $825, renovation repairs $90,000 with a value of $1.2 million. Over $200K in profit. That sounds like a terrific deal. So we're gonna break this deal down and find out what it actually is. So the first thing we're gonna do is pull the building information on the property. You can do this 2 different ways. There's public sites depending on where you are. So in King County, you can go to metrokc.gov and it'll pull you all the building code information. Or if you're working with a broker, you are a broker, I choose to use the Northwest MLS Relist, which is the same exact information laid out a different way. So either way, you have access to this information. So when I'm pulling up the tax record, there's 8 things that I'm really looking for to start working on my numbers. So the first thing that I'm going to pull up, and we're pulling it up right now, is I'm going to pull up the total building gross square footage. That's going to tell me what kind of space I'm working with to maximize the possible value in the property. If I have a 2,000 square foot house, chances are I can get a 4 to 5 bedroom in there, not a 3 bedroom. So I'm going to have to rearrange some things. So the first thing I look for is building square footage. What's the maximum potential? The next thing I look for is what's the lot size, because the next comparable, when I'm looking at my comparables, I need to make sure I'm pricing the home with the same size lots. I don't want to come up like this house has a half-acre lot, which is oversized and large. That's going to be rare in this area. That should fetch me a premium, so I want to put that into my deal analysis. The next thing that I'm going to look at, the total gross square footage is 2,350. That includes a garage square footage of 280 square feet, and inside the basement 200 square feet. So the total garage is 480 square feet, but 200 of that is inside the house, so the garage probably cantilevers out. The ground floor is 1190 and the basement's 880. Always pay attention not just to gross square footage, but to also where the spaces are. If I have a 2,000 square foot house over 3 floors, it's going to feel a lot more narrow, a lot more tight, and chances are it's not going to sell as well as a 1,200 square foot main floor with a large basement. More room, the better. People like that space. It's more marketable. The other thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at what is the current bed and bath count. It's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath property, or 2.75 bath. The reason I'm looking at that is I know I'm going to need 3 baths to optimize the pricing in this house. That does tell me it already has the right bath count, which is going to minimize my plumbing costs. So I'm also referencing this to tell me kind of what the condition, and I'm taking these notes for my rehab budget down the road. So that the next thing I'm going to look at is the year built. Different eras are going to give you different problems in your renovation. So 1900 to 1930 in Seattle, Washington, that's going to give you all systems are going to be bad. Your foundation's going to have some issues. You're going to need to update the whole property. 1930s to 1950s are the bombshell houses. They were built during World War I, II, so they're used, times of recession, so the quality construction and architecture are not very good. They're usually going to require more money. 50s to 70s usually have really good framing, but older mechanicals. The 80s have really good mechanicals, better plumbing, better electrical, but they have bad windows and siding because they did cheaper materials there. 1990s products are going to give me perfected layouts typically already, where it's going to be more cosmetic updates. So that year built's going to tell you a lot what you need to do to that property if the photos aren't that good. The next thing I'm looking at is zoning. I have a half-acre lot in Kirkland, and each lot in Kirkland, if I can subdivide it off, is worth almost $500,000, which would make this a home run deal that maybe people aren't paying attention to. So the zoning is actually residential 8.5. That's one house per 8,500 square feet. So technically, I have a 17,000 square foot lot. I could actually get 2 parcels out of this. That doesn't mean I'm actually going to do that because I got to check where the house location is and also what the topography of the lot is, but it's something to keep in mind as I'm pulling my comparables. And then I'm going to go into what's the parking square footage. We already talked about that. It's a traditional 2-car garage. That's something really to pay attention to in the comparables as well. Yes, a lot of people be like, oh, it's just a garage. You don't need to look at it. Some neighborhoods sell really well with no garage. Some don't. So make sure you pay attention to what the parking situation is. And those are our major things that I'm going to look for in the tax record to kind of identify those things. The next thing I'm going to look for is what is the location of the property. The best tool I use, Google. They will pull up pretty much everything you need to see. That's going to show you negative aspects, whether you're on a busy road, whether you're next to a freeway. Those are big negative factors that can affect your sale from 5 to 10%. So those are big things to check a look for. The other thing you want to make sure to take a look at is what do your neighbors look like? What's the lot look like? You know, if you have bad neighbors on both sides, that can be very detrimental to your sale and can literally cost you 5 to 10% off that sale. I recently just sold a house in Ballard, Washington, where the neighbor honestly was so run down. She was such a nutbag that we literally had to drop our price $150,000 just to get it sold. So don't underestimate those neighbors. All right, so our neighborhood, as we look at the drive-by, is actually good. There's some big positives here. Which one is it's in a cul-de-sac. East side homes get a lot more pricing because they're typically targeted to small families, so they like the security of a cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac is a huge bonus. One negative I'm seeing is the property is actually on a flag lot. We're going to investigate that further a little bit. So it's a nice large half-acre lot. It's got a nice long driveway, which is a positive, but it is tucked in between 2 different houses. So a flag lot typically sells less than a house on street frontage. So make sure you account for that in your when you're looking at properties. So now what we're going to do is kind of look at an overhead view of this property, which we are seeing some negatives on right now. So what we have going on is we have a long, narrow driveway, which I do like because it gives you that estate feel. People like pulling up to the house. But the big negative I'm seeing is we were all excited about half-acre lot possible subdivide. This is not one of those candidates for 2 reasons. One is it looks like it kind of falls down a hill. Developers don't want lots that are on hills. They're expensive to develop. It's not very usable. The other part is our driveway approach isn't going to support this extra lot, right? Because there's not enough space for fire or anything to come through. And the other big negative that we're seeing is we have this half-acre lot, which I thought was going to be a huge value increase, and I think the wholesaler might have also think it's a big value increase, but most of it's not usable. So a house, if I'm looking at this right now, a house with a normal 10,000 square foot lot is actually going to be worth more than our half-acre lot because it's more usable for their kids. Right now they have no yard for their kids to play in. It's going to be a big negative selling factor. So now that we've already figured out what the pros and cons of the property are, we're going to dig into the comparable data and come up with that exit value. So now, how do we figure out what this asset's actually worth? Lots of pros and lots of cons. We're going to dig into the comparables and narrow down the values and hedge against that sales price. So things you can do, or what I do as an investor, is I get on the Northwest MLS because I'm a licensed broker. If you're not a broker, that's okay, but you need to find that investment broker that can help sell that investment for you and analyze these deals quickly. Now, if you don't have a broker yet, get one, but if not, things you can use are Redfin. You can pull up sales in the area. Realtor.com. You can also pull up sales in the area. LoopNet for commercial property. Get on, see what apartment buildings are for sale and what they're selling for. Also, you can use VRBO if you're looking for rents and find out what things are renting for, a rentometer. Things I would not use for value is Zestimate or tax assessed value. Both of those are calculations. They are not correct. They are reference points only. So now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes and dig into what this is actually worth. So we have all the information. The first thing we're going to do is pull up comparable sales in the area. So you put in the address, and the one thing you want to start looking at, as you can see I'm zoning out on the map, is we want to stay inside certain sections of areas. Start with a very, very tight radius. So as you can see, the first sales that I'm pulling is below a major street because it sections off the neighborhood. I'm in between a freeway, so I'm not going into a different area part of Kirkland, and I'm staying in a very, very tight radius. This is within less than a quarter mile of all these sales. That's going to give me very good data to interpret what the value is. So as we pull this up, what it did is it pulled a list of 27 homes. That's a lot of data to pull up in just a limited part of areas. So little tricks that I do to kind of speed things up and get through deals quickly is I know that I'm only going to be looking for homes above 1,600 square feet and between 2,500 square feet. Our home is 2,150 square feet total. So usually that's going to give me my range. Also, I'm going to put 1999 or older in my year build. That's going to eliminate all brand new construction. New construction is going to get a premium pricing that we're not going to get. And then in my sold data, I'm going to actually pull, because of COVID, there's been a lack of sales. I'm going to go back a year to see what the sales trends are. So we just went from 22 properties to 5 potential comparables for this property. So it helps me speed things up and get through deals quickly. I have to underwrite over 30 deals a day, so I have to be efficient in this position. So the first sale that I'm seeing is a 3-bed, 2.75 bath, 2,000 square feet on a half-acre lot that sold for $850. Remember, this wholesaler is trying to sell this to me for $800. So that is already making me a little bit nervous. It's a similar year built. It's a split level, which is a little bit of a negative. We're more of a 2-story home. As we go through this, I'm looking at what the fit and finishes are. Yes, they're decent cabinets. These are more builder grade. You got granite countertops. And I'm looking at the appliances are mismatched. I got stainless and white with black, so you got 3 different colors in one section. That's important because the more houses are buttoned up, especially in higher end neighborhoods, the premium you're gonna get. So this could be a reason why this house sold low. It also has old doors, it's got cheaper flooring. It's basically the original house from 2000 when it was built. That is not an update finished house, but it is a reference point for me. And it is concerning because it's a house on a similar size lot, but not updated, that sold for $850. Now, if I'm looking at this lot, the good news about this half-acre lot is similar to ours. Not very usable, it's elevated, not a lot of space. So that is a reference point. Then I get into a 1,700 square foot house that sold for $934. And then we get into $945 for a 2,400 square foot, 4-bed, 2.5 bath, 3-car garage. Now, this is a pretty good looking home. It's built in 2000s. It's got good layouts, but things that I'm seeing across the board is it's very, very builder grade. Again, knowing your neighborhood is important. In Kirkland, people will pay that premium for high-end finishes. This has an outdated kitchen. So people that are buying this property are probably gonna drop 20 grand right into their kitchen day one if they want to update it. So good news is it sold for it was listed for $890, got bid up to $950. That's a very, very big positive, right? We know there's a lot of demand in that area. Bad news is it's a 3-car garage, it's got a better driveway situation, and it's a little bit larger. That could be trade-off for finishes, so that's a reference point for me. 2 months ago, a 5-bed, 3.25 bath, 2,400 square foot house sold for $1.16. Why did it sell for so much more than that $950? Well, A, it's got fully updated. It's not dated. They have brand new floors. They got better doors. Now the kitchen is a little bit dated, which is gonna give me, you know, again, it's got builder grade brown cabinets, just specs in the house that are not in high demand and high style. People want white, they want clean, they want more kind of like a urban farmhouse in this area will sell premium. It does have a better yard than us, and it's got a great master bathroom, or bedroom and bath with a 5-piece bath. So it may be less updated, but it has a lot of amenities that we may not have. Whoa, and here's a great comp for us. So we just found a comp that is on the same block. We're off 111th Place. This is off 111th Avenue Northeast. So not only, oh, look at this. It is right by us in the cul-de-sac. And it's got a very similar shaped yard as ours too. And now I'm looking at this, and also it's got a very heavily wooded yard. So we just found a very, very good comparable. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. We're 3 bedrooms, 2.75 baths, so that tells me I need to get to a 4-bedroom house. It's 2,300 square feet. We're 2,100 square feet. It was built in 1973. We're 80s, so they have very similar layouts. It's got similar architectural design from what I saw from the street view. And that was listed for $1.228 and sold for $1.25. So let's see why it sold for such a premium. A, it's an investor that flipped this house. They got a brand new roof on, they got new garage doors, they do have vaulted ceilings, so we want to see what when we dig into the house photos, we're going to see what the architectural style is. But they have custom tile here. This is not cheap tile, this is natural stone. That's a better finish. They have can lights throughout. So they did a very, very high-end renovation on this property to get that top pricing. I'm looking at the doors. Those are solid wood doors. So as I'm going through these comparables and I'm coming up with the value, it's also dictating what I'm going to need to put into my budget. That door costs roughly $175 a door, whereas in our normal flips, it costs us $90. So I need to account for that in my budget. It's got custom railings in there. So all good things. Oh, it's got our standard kitchen, which is a scheme that we use quite a bit. It's a white shaker with a quartz countertop and a full glass backsplash. It's got nice, probably $3 to $4 floors in there. As we go through, we can see it's got a good master bathroom, double vanity sink, got a big walk-in closet, huge shower, but it doesn't have a 5-piece, so that's also telling me I just need to make the master bathroom big, but I don't need that 5-piece bath, which will save me a little bit on my budget. But as you can see, the fit and finish of this house is in really good shape. Everything's been done on it. So what that's also telling me in my comparable data is because this house sold at the same times as the other houses, that people will pay me this premium in this location. I'm not making that up. I have the difference, and I've also referenced the lower sales, what fit and finishes they had. So as I go through this house is telling me what I need to do to the next house, and we're going to dig into that in the rehab and what that's going to cost. So as we look out towards, let's see what the yard situation is. There's the basement, nice functional basement. Big laundry. Okay, and then it has a massive deck. Okay, the reason I'm paying attention to this deck, whoa, huge double tier deck. This deck right here, now remember the wholesaler told me that it's gonna be $90,000 to renovate this house and it was worth 1.2. My guess is he was using this as a value point. The problem with his analysis is this house is A, 200 square feet bigger, which doesn't seem that much bigger, but it's really 10% bigger. So you think of it that way. And also, this deck alone is gonna cost me at least $20,000. Lumber is at an all-time high. So the deck is gonna eat up almost 25% of his proposed budget. So his math's a little off on his rehab without even looking at the photos. And the beautiful thing is, this is a model match comp to what we have. Not only is it a 2-story house, it's in the same era, it's on a cul-de-sac, it's on a similar sized lot, it also has no backyard. So what this investor did is they actually created its own yard via deck. So we're gonna have to do that same game plan if we wanna hit that top tier pricing, or adjust our value down, not put in the custom deck, and go for a cheaper price at the end of the day. You always wanna make sure that you give your house the same amenities of what the value is. But overall, this is our best comparable. So if we recap all these comparables, again, we started with a 1990s as-is 2,000 square foot house on a weird lot that sold for $850. Then we get into a house that sold for $950 that got bid up over $70,000. So that does tell us there's a high demand for the property. Then we get a little bit nicer style house that's a little bit larger that sold for $116, one street away from us, that is not completely updated. And then we basically have a model match house, slightly bigger, that sold for 1.2, completely renovated. So the value that we're gonna come up with is about one, with the adjustment in square footage down, that house sold for about $527 a foot. We're at 2,100 square feet. So at $527 a foot, and cross-reference this at 2,100 square feet, that's gonna put our value around 1.1 to 1.15. So the wholesaler said it's worth 1.2 and only needs 90. But right now we're looking like it's going to be about 115, and it possibly means our rehab's going to go up too based on the amenities I saw. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we've narrowed down the value, is we're going to take a deep dive into the construction photos and start to plan what that's going to cost for that property. Remember, the comparable we're using has higher end finishes, nicer floors, nicer doors, nicer locks. So those are all things we're going to need to adjust in our budget. One quick tip to all the wholesalers out there: take tons of photos. Get the spaces, the front. Don't give me a close-up photo of a doorknob. I need to see where the kitchens, bathrooms, and everything are laid out. That is going to make your job way easier as a wholesaler. So I get to a photo, here's a panel. House built in the 1980s, I would assume good electrical all the way through, but the panel doesn't have a shutoff. So this is going to need to get redone. That's a $2,000 bill. As I'm going through these photos, I can see that the house is very builder grade. We have to update it. Remember, one of the comps that we saw that was very builder grade only sold for $850. The nice one sold for $1.2. That is a huge swing, so we got to execute this right. So as I'm looking even at this vanity, that's a decent vanity, granite countertop. That is not what we're going to get. That is not what the buyer wants in a $1.2 million house. They have built-in tub surrounds, so those all need to be pulled out with tile to get the higher end finish. We're seeing texture on the ceilings, so we're going to need a lot of retexturing throughout the house. Noting a lot of different sliders in here as we go through. One thing to note, you guys, sliders cost double what a window costs. So we're going to count out the sliders as we go through. The master bath, I'm seeing has good space. That's going to reduce my framing, but we need a full update in the master bathroom. All the bathrooms need to be updated. I'm seeing all the doors in the house are solid, or they're hollow core, flat panel doors. So those all need to be redone with solid core doors that we saw. Windows need to get done. Those are double pane aluminum. The comp had vinyl. And as we're looking at the spacing, I can see in a typical split level, usually you come up the stairs, you've got your living, family, kitchen on this side. They open this wall on this side, so it's kind of a weird little nook, which is probably where our missing fourth bedroom is. So we do need to budget in to frame in another bedroom here and get that layout right. As we keep going, we see mixers of can lights. We need to budget in for a full amount of cans. Our comp was fully can lit, right? So I can't put in surface mount lights, one per room, if the comp has cans. This bathroom, again, not that bad if I'm targeting $850,000 like the comp said, but I'm going for 1.2, so I need to fully take this bathroom apart, which is unfortunate because it's really not that bad of shape. And as we keep going through, we need to do all the millwork and casing. Again, these floors are 99-cent hardwoods. The floors in that high-end comp were $5 foot hardwoods, so we need to adjust our floors and pull out these flooring in here. Kitchen, nice thing, we save money on the kitchen's already open. So as we get to the exterior, I can see I have a massive deck here. So important thing to note on decks is right now the boards look mediocre. We have a ton of railings there. That's going to cost about $80 to $100 a foot to replace those. I might want to cut back some of the deck to cut the budget cost down. So as we keep going, we can see right here what we saw, the custom sale had a higher end garage doors. These are standard, so we're gonna need to replace those. And then one thing I'm seeing in this roof, it doesn't look terrible, so this might be salvageable, but it is a 20-year comp roof. You'll notice the difference is a 30-year, they're architecturally overlaid, so they last 10 years longer, plus they're gonna hold up better. These 20-year roofs really only last about 10 typically if they're not well taken care of. So we might have a roof budget item for a roof. So as we go through, we have to do the front doors. Nice thing about this, over our comparable, we have a big front yard. They had no yard, they just had a big deck. So that's a trade-off a little bit for the backyard. Okay, and as we get to this backyard, one thing I've noted, I've seen 2 sliders in the bottom, 2 sliders at the top. Now remember that wholesaler said our budget was $90,000. The cost of these sliders is going to be right around $5,000 to $6,000, which is 8% of the total budget just for the sliders. So his budget is probably going to be a little bit off here. And then also what I'm seeing is this fence, because it's a tight backyard, we want to have a custom nice fence. So when people look out in their backyard, they see the right thing. So this picture is actually really important for 2 reasons. One, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a jogged fence line. This could be an encroachment on the property. Now, if this fence is actually, the line is right here, not right here, that's going to cause me to lose about 30% of my backyard, which is a major big deal. So that's a question I need to ask the wholesaler. The other thing this picture tells me is my deck budget can be around $5,000 instead of 10 because the underlying conditions of this deck are in good shape. It's got built with pressure treated wood. It's got the right anchor bolts in, so they actually built this deck right. It just needs more cosmetics than it does need structural. That's about 100% difference in cost when you got to do the whole thing. So as we go through, it's a very standard house. We have to update the finishes. Things we're going to note is to make sure we're putting in the right materials and the right specs in our budget. So again, key things before you start your budget sheet that we're going to go into next is make sure you have a list of those materials, what those things cost, and what your install rates are. If you have those things, you're going to be able to build the budget sheet that I have next and be able to do this in a very streamlined way. All right, so now that we've gone through all the photos and we've seen a lot of issues that we're going to need addressed, we have the comparable that's telling us what kind of finishes to put in there. I'm going to put it into my budget sheet. If you are just getting started or you're an experienced investor and you don't have your own rehab calculator, you need to get one or invest in one. It will help you streamline your process so much quicker and prevent wasted time. So as we go through this, I'm going to take you through my actual sheet and calculate the cost live with you guys. So the first thing we know is we need to get permits. There's electrical work to be done. Always permit your work, guys. It makes it a lot easier to sell that house down the road. We know that we have a 2,100 square foot house to cosmetically demo. The cost of that for average on experience is $1.50 a square foot, which is, so that puts me at $31.50. In addition to, the wholesaler mentioned we got to take their own personal items. So I'm gonna add another dumpster load in there for cost. So, and then we saw the gutters broken. We know roughly we have about 15 windows in the house. That's just a ballpark, guys. I couldn't count them per window, but that's about right for there. Sliders, again, these are more than windows. We know we have 6 sliders. The sliders are gonna cost $5,400 to do that. We're gonna need address numbers. We know we are gonna come through. We need deck repair. So I'm gonna put that in miscellaneous. Railings. That's probably gonna be about $5,000 because it's a massive deck, but the structure is good. If the structure wasn't good, I'd actually put it at $10,000. So as we go through this, we know we need fencing to kind of box in and give us that privacy to get optimal pricing. We have the lot is gonna be about 100 square feet. It's gonna be 100 square feet on all 3 sides. So we have about 300 square feet of fencing. That's $6,000 right there. We know we have a garage that we need to replace, 2 doors. That's $2,400. So as we go through, I'm putting all these numbers in, and it's gonna kick out what my rehab is. So we're gonna do $1.50 a square foot on paint because it's a little bit nicer area. So we have a 20. So on my exterior paint, I'm including the garage square footage because it's a little bit larger. So we're at $2,500. The interior paint's only $2,100. So our paint cost is now in there. We have a little bit of drywall repair because we're putting up that second bedroom wall. So we're gonna have roughly about 200 square feet of drywall. Actually, we're gonna put that at 400 because smaller jobs cost a little bit more. We know we're gonna paint a fireplace in there. We have a little bit of framing to do in this project to create that bedroom and kind of finish opening up that kitchen a little bit. So we have $3,000 for miscellaneous framing to frame in the bedrooms and optimize the layout, move some things around. Plumbing looks like it's gonna be pretty good, so we can leave most of that alone. We're gonna do a partial replumb just for the master and reconfiguring. So we're just gonna put in a little bit of a miscellaneous at $2,500. Bath fixtures, we know we have 3 tubs. We have 6 faucets, kitchen faucets. So as I'm going through, I'm counting all this stuff out based on these photos. We have toilets, and we got a mud pan for the master bath. So as you can see, having this built out makes me very, very efficient, and I can get things done quickly. So things that I'm putting in the contingency: gas, hot water tank. This might not need to be included, but I'm gonna put it in my budget up front, $1,300. I'm gonna have to trim out 3 bathrooms. Electrical's in pretty good shape, but we do need to wire just a little bit of that for that additional bedroom in there. Trim out's gonna be at 2,100 square feet. We need a new electrical panel. Then we need to do can lights. We're gonna install probably 20 can lights throughout the house. That's gonna be about $1,000. 3 bath fans. So you guys, our comp is, everything's new, so we gotta match the same. And then as we're going through, in my calculator, what happens is if I decide to upgrade my bathroom fixtures, I saw high-end fixtures in that house. So I can actually put that at $150 for my materials, and then that will give me my new allowance rate. So know what your material specs are. As you can see in this budget sheet, I have all my allowances already preset in for my standard flip. If I'm going higher end, I'm going to change those numbers around. So as we kind of go through this, we know we have 6 bathroom lights or 5 bathroom lights. We need a new furnace. We're kind of just going through the whole deal. We're going to need new cabinets. We're going to need 2 vanities. High-end kitchen sink is included now. Yeah, 2,100 square feet. We're going to have 15 windows. We're going to have about 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. That's 7 total doors plus a flex door. That's 8. Then we're going to have 8 closet doors. We need a front door, and we're going to do a custom style front door because it's a high-end home like the comp, so we need to budget up for $1,000, which will put us at $1,250. And we need a fire door to the garage, and then we need 8 closet doors. So as you can see, I can get through this budget very, very quickly. So carpet, we got half the house is in carpet. Solid surface is at $800. We have an allowance of $250. They had nicer floors in, so we're going to put in $3.50 a square foot. Usually my calculator auto kicks over, but it's a little broken right now. So as we keep going through things, our bathroom surrounds, we need 3 of those, 1 for kitchen. This tells me my allowances. Those allowances will be good compared to the comps. And we got trim out for the house. We're doing a little bit higher end, so I'm going to add another 25% for that. And then we saw better appliances than our comp. Again, they were upgraded from your standard set, so we're putting in all these allowances in here. So one thing I just realized, I think I mistake, is on my doors, I had an allowance of $105 a door, but I referenced they have solid wood doors in there, so that's $175, which is going to take my cost from $250 a door to $180. So I'm making all my adjustments for what that comp did. As you noticed, I didn't look at the pictures of the house first, I look at the comps first to build my budget. So that way it tells me exactly what specs I need to do in the budget. Now landscaping, we want to build a nice wall, privacy wall in the front, paver patios, maximize that small yard to get that kind of premium pricing. So we're going to put in a little bit bigger budget for landscaping. Then we're going to do some paver patios so it feels really nice and big back there. So we're going to put in a paver patio, or actually probably 2 because there's sliders on both sides. So right now, with a contingency in there at 5%, and you guys, I just built this whole budget for this house and budgeted this house out in 4 minutes. That's what having the right tools in place will do for you as an investor. So we just budgeted this house out. The wholesaler told me $90,000 and it's worth $1.2 million. What we came to realize on the comps is it was only worth $1.125 million, maybe $1.15. And then our rehab calculator, based on that comp that he was using at 1.2, came out to $150,000. So on this deal, the wholesaler was off by almost $100,000 on their value and $60,000 on their budget. So now what we have to do is dig into our own financial calculator, put it in our pro forma, and it may or may not still work for us. The calculator will tell us from there. So let's dig into the cost next. If you don't have your own financial calculator, you must get one. It allows you to crunch numbers very quickly. So what we do know, I'm going to enter in that we can purchase this property right now from the wholesaler for $800,000. Okay, we had the fix up at $150,000 to match the comparable sale. Now remember, the wholesaler said 90. The wholesaler also said the value was 1.2, which we came up with a 1.15 number to adjust for the square footage difference. So when we put in all these 3 numbers, what this does in my calculator, it breaks down the purchase price, the fix up, and what the estimated ARV is. And then we also calculate in what's my estimated hold time. I'm running this project at 5.5 months. The reason I know that is if I look at all my flips of this kind of nature, I average 5.1 months in a hold time. Now, if this was a 1920 structure, I'm going to adjust my hold times in Seattle to 12 months because it takes me 4 months alone just to permit it, plus the construction's a harder game plan. So know how long it takes you to execute your plan. You're the only person that can put that number in. So at the end of the day, we have a purchase price of $800. Now in my calculator, it also calculates if I pay cash for it or if I use hard money to take down the deal. I'm an active investor that constantly uses hard money because it allows me to maximize my overall cash-on-cash return and buy more deals rather than just one. So I'm gonna borrow hard money on this deal because honestly, I don't have $1 million laying around just to buy this. So the purchase price is $800. We put $150,000 into the rehab cost. My total project cost is $950,000. So with my lender, who requires 20% down, I'm gonna need to come up with $190,000 to purchase this deal. The other things I have packed into my financial calculator is what's my acquisition cost. Those are my title and escrow fees when I purchase it. That's at $1,500. What's my lender cost? My construction lender charges me 2 points on the note amount, which is $15,000 for this. Loan fees are at $1,700. That's for miscellaneous expenses. I have $42,000 baked into the pro forma to cover my holding expense. I've also inputted in my property taxes because that is an expense that many people miss. Just because you're selling the property doesn't mean you don't have to pay that tax. Those taxes must be paid at closing. We factor for insurance. We run utilities at $200 a month during that time, so it's $1,100 in cost. So make sure your calculator has the true cost. This is not flip this house on TV. It's not just you buy it for this, you sell it for this, here's the profit. Figure out your true cost. So my total direct cost, even though I'm all in for $950, is $1,014,000. So after my selling cost, paying my real estate broker, paying excise tax, title, and escrow fees, that kicks me out a profit of $44,000. And my total cash out of pocket is $233,000, which is a 19% return. Now, on this big of a project, I'm typically targeting, if I'm leveraging, about a 30 to 35% return, or I target 15% return on cash with no leverage. So as of right now, this deal does not meet my minimum expectations. So as I go back up, I want to figure out what price does make sense for me. So I'm going to put in $775. I'm going to reduce the purchase by $25,000. And that gets me to a 30% return. That hits my buy box. So now what I'm gonna do from here, I have all my numbers. I have what the property is, how much it's gonna sell for, what the rehab amount, what all my debt costs are, and kicks out my actual profit. And that has told me that I need to get this property $25,000 cheaper for it to be worth my while. So I'm going to go back to the wholesaler, talk to him, give him logical explanations why his rehab might be off or why it might be on, and then we're going to try to see if we can work out a deal and get this deal closed.